Welcome back to Baseball 101. We've made it this far, so we might as well keep going. In this episode, let's talk about the tricky rules of the game and discussing calls with an umpire.
You're out! This section we're going to talk about the pitcher's delivery, what's allowed and what's not allowed. And an illegal move that the pitcher makes is called a balk. We'll talk about that later. First we'll talk about the two positions that the pitcher can assume when delivering a pitch. The first is called the wind-up position. In that position, the pitcher's facing the batter with the foot on the rubber, hands in front of the body like so, and from that position they can make their normal pitching delivery. The second position is called the set position. And in the set position, they still have one foot in contact with the rubber, but the other foot in front, and they come up into a position with the ball resting in front like so. So when the pitcher is in that set position, we talked last episode about them trying to pick off a runner who's taking a lead off a base. But the pitcher has to fight fair. There are rules about how they can make such a move. They're not allowed to make any kind of move that would deceive the runner. If they make any move from this position that's normally associated with delivery of the pitch, they must go ahead and deliver that pitch. Now, from the set position, there are two ways that the pitcher can make their pick off to first base. The first is just to turn and throw to first. In that case, they must gain some distance towards first with their foot. They have to step towards first base and make their throw. And they must make that throw. If they don't make that throw, that's a ball. That's a ball! The second way the pitcher can make that pick off to first base is to disengage the rubber with their back foot. When they do so, they need to separate their hands, and now the pitcher is not considered to be a pitcher anymore. Now they're a normal fielder. They can do whatever they want with the ball, they can throw it or not throw it as they wish. So there are lots of ways in which a pitcher can commit a balk. First of all, we talked about if they make any normal motion associated with the pitch, they must deliver that pitch to the plate. So once I assume my set position, I have to freeze. The only thing I'm allowed to move now is my head. If I make any other move with any part of my body and I don't deliver the pitch, that's a ball. They're also not allowed to feint a throw to first or third base unless they first disengaged from the rubber.
That's a ball! You second base!
They can't throw to a base unless they step towards that base.
That's a ball! You second base!
They can't throw to an unoccupied base.
That's a ball!
They're not allowed to quick pitch the batter. So when the pitcher comes to their set position, they have to come to a noticeable pause before they pitch. They're not allowed to stand astride the rubber or in contact with the rubber if they're not in possession of the baseball.
That's a ball!
They also cannot remove their hands unless they're making a pitch or they're stepping off the rubber.
That's a ball!
They're also not allowed to drop the ball. If they're in contact with the rubber and they drop the ball, that's also a ball.
Ball!
Finally, when they deliver a pitch, they must do so in a fluid, continuous motion.
That's a ball! But when we're talking about left-handed pitchers, it's a bit of a special situation, because for lefties, all they have to do is step towards first and throw the ball. As before, we said you have to step towards base. Well, with lefties, it's even a little bit more tricky. There's a 45-degree line that's imaginary that lefties have to step over. If I want to throw to first, I got to step over that line. Anything else inside that 25, I have to go to home.
That's a balk!
Big thing is, if the pitcher's foot makes any kind of direction towards home, he has to pitch to the plate.
That's a balk!
And if the pitcher's foot crosses the back leg, again, has to pitch to the plate.
That's a balk!
So, let's start getting into the tricky rules of baseball. When the ball's hit in the air and it's caught by a fielder or an outfielder, the base runner has to return to the base they started before advancing. The ball's in the air and you leave the bag, you have to get back to the bag before the ball, and if you don't, you're out. He's out! And if you thought that was tricky, just wait for infield fly. In that rule, runners on first and second, or first, second, and third with less than 2 outs find themselves in a very peculiar situation when a pop fly stays in the infield. They don't know whether to advance or go back. And thus, the infield fly rule applies. In that rule, when the ball has reached the apex of its flight, the umpire calls
Infield fly! Batter's up!
So when that happens, it doesn't matter if the infield catches the ball or drops it. The batters are allowed to stay at the base in order to protect the runners from an infielder who's trying to capitalize on the confusion by intentionally dropping the ball and causing a double play to get more batters out. So for the next set of tricky situations, we're going to talk about obstruction and interference. Often these two are confused for each other, so let's spell them out. Obstruction is when the fielder impedes illegally the progress of the runner. A common obstruction is found on first base, especially with younger players. So a batter hits the ball into the outfield and is running on his way to first, trying to get to second. The first baseman, not paying attention, is still standing on the base and collides with the runner. That's obstruction. If a fielder does not have possession of the ball, he's out. Or making a play on the ball, he's out. They cannot be in the runner's pathway to the base. Bottom line is, you have to stay out of the runner's path to the base until you have the baseball. And though you might not agree with that rule, often those rules are put in place for a very good reason.
In the event of obstruction, if a play is being made on the obstructed runner, then the ball is dead and the umpire will award bases as he sees fit, at least one base.
Time! That's obstruction! Runner's safe!
Now, if no play is being made on the obstructed runner, the umpire will let the play continue, and only at the end of the play will award bases as he sees fit to mitigate any effects of the obstruction.
Interference is when a runner interferes with the fielder's ability to make a play on the ball. The base runner has the obligation to avoid the fielder while he's trying to make a play.
That's interference! He's out!
If the runner is struck with a batted ball that doesn't pass an infielder other than the pitcher, he's out for interference.
That's interference! He's out!
Now, there's a special situation when running to first base. In previous episodes, we've talked about the tram lines. So when a runner is running inside the field, outside the tram lines, and gets hit by a ball, the runner's out. That's interference.
Time! He's out of the lane! He's out!
Another important part of interference is remembering a runner cannot deviate from their normal path to make contact with the fielder. A common place we see this is with double plays. The runner advancing to second deviates outside his base path, sliding into the fielder that's trying to turn that double play. What he's caused is himself out, and the batter runner advancing to first to be out as well.
Time! That's interference! You're out! You're out!
Let's talk about appeal plays. Appeal plays are when the umpire doesn't make a call and and it's up to the defense to make an appeal on the play. When an umpire sees a player miss the bag or leave early on a tag up, he does not say anything. It's only when the appeal is made does the umpire make the call. Now, there's two types of appeals. One type is a live appeal, in which the ball is still in play, so you get the ball back to the base that is in question and call on the umpire. Yeah, one. He left early. He's up. The second type is a dead ball appeal. For some reason, the play's over, the ball's dead. Now, you have to wait for the umpire to call play ball. Oftentimes, the pitcher then has to step off and throw the ball to the base in question, calling upon the umpire. Step off, step off. Blue! He's up. Are you kidding me?
Jesus. So, time for my favorite section, discussing with an umpire. Now, the key to any effective discussion is mutual respect. Now, umpires are people too, and without them, we wouldn't be able to play. It's in every player and manager's interest that they have a good rapport with the umpire and treat them with respect. Something you're not allowed to argue about with an umpire is the result of a judgment call. Judgment calls are strike or ball. Strike! You better rub that out right now. Safe or out. He's out! Fair or foul. If you argue with an umpire about one of those calls, the first time you may just get a warning, but the second time you do it, you're liable to be thrown out.
You're gone!
So something you can argue about with an umpire is their interpretation of a rule. If you don't agree that they're applying the rules correctly, that you can argue about. Respectfully, of course.
He's up.
Excuse me, sir. Can I speak with you for a moment? Yes, of course you can. Could I ask you what you saw there on that play? The fielder was in possession of the ball, tagging the base before the player got there, and so he's out. But that was the batter runner. They came all the way through first base on their way to second base, so they weren't forced at second base. They have to be tagged. Oh, actually, you're right. I'm sorry, you're right, you're correct. That runner's safe. He's safe. So you can see there's no reason why you can't have a civilized discussion about the interpretation of a rule. Thank you. Thank you for getting the call correct. You're calling a great game, by the way. You're welcome. Play ball! So if you're discussing the application of a rule and you still don't agree that the umpire is applying the rule correctly, you can play the game under protest. And they check the rule later, and if it turns out that you were right, the game gets replayed from the point of the protest. So here's how not to do it.
He's up.
Crazy? You're not what's the matter with you? You need to get glasses, buddy. You should do something else because you're not good at this.
Hey, you need to calm down. I'm warning you, calm down.
Don't tell me to calm down. You are killing this game. You're absolutely killing it.
Okay, that's it. You're out.
1,000. Well, that's the end of episode 4 Baseball 101. Tricky rules and arguing with the umpire. Also, it happens to be the end of the series. Thanks for sticking along. We'll hope to see you soon in the Strike Zone.